Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session where we're going to be talking about progressing with your career post-apprenticeship. We will be delving into the apprenticeship itself, and my name's Tom Duncan. I'm the Product Support Delivery Manager at AAT, and I'm delighted to be joined by Narpreet Bhamra and Rachel Harris, and really looking forward to talking to them about apprenticeships. And as many of you will know, last week was the National Apprenticeship Week. So let's start to dive in and answer some key queries that you might have. Those potentially being the value in undertaking an apprenticeship, how to actually make the most of your apprenticeship and your career following your apprenticeship. So both Narpreet and Rachel have gone on to achieve great success in their careers following their apprenticeship. And I think, interestingly, have gone on to very different paths within the accounting industry. So really excited to find out a little bit more and kind of understand the role that their apprenticeship played in their careers as well. So Narpreet, Rachel, welcome. And thanks very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's session.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no worries.
Great stuff. And Rachel, before we get started, I do understand that you're fresh off the television appearance on ITV's this morning. So I'm going to have to ask you about that. Sounds like an amazing experience. How was it?
Yeah, just a very glamorous segue into where a career in accounting can take you. Yeah, so I was really lucky. I try and avoid using the word lucky because a lot of hard work normally goes behind the luck. But yeah, really lucky to get a 9-minute segment on this morning on the 31st of January. So was chatting to Rylan and Rochelle all about self-assessment tax returns. Yeah, just a fantastic opportunity to get more people, more young people or people who aren't trying to access financial education, talking about the finance industry and how having access to financial education through doing qualifications like AAT can change your life.
Absolutely fantastic, and congratulations on all of that, Rachel. And Narpreet as well. We've not really spoken before today, but I understand that you're a senior global finance analyst at a large manufacturing company. Sounds like an absolutely amazing role. If you'd just like to start by just giving a bit of an introduction of yourself and telling us a bit about what that entails.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Narpreet. I started my AAT journey probably around 6 to 7 years ago when I was fresh out of school. I was 16 and I joined on the apprenticeship scheme at Microsoft. And I completed my level 3 and level 4 AAT whilst with them and progressed to a role which was looking after our partner business, again, all finance. And it was only in the last year where I thought, let me change industry. I've got a good stint at the tech background, so now I'm in the manufacturing goods background and I look after everything working capital, so looking at inventory, looking at our business waste, supporting with just sort of ad hoc month-end close reporting as well. So just a whole different experience to what I've been used to in the past, but all well.
Sounds fantastic. And Rachel as well, if you just want to give a brief introduction of yourself, and I guess aside from making television appearances, what's it like running your own practice?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. If we haven't met before, I'm so excited to be spending your lunch break with you today. My name is Rachel and I'm the founder of Accountant She. I'm a disruptor in the accounting industry. So I'm disrupting what it means to be an accountant, what it feels like to have an accountant, and disrupting the concept that you can't scale a practice to 7 figures without losing yourself along the way. So I own one of the UK's fastest scaling accountancy practices. We've got offices near Oxford and an office in central Manchester with 750 clients and nearly 20 members of staff. Started my career as an AAT level 2 baby, and it's led me all of the way here.
Fantastic. Well, great to be speaking with you both today about apprenticeships. Let's now kind of rewind the clock all the way back. And first question, I'll just start with you, Narpreet. If you just want to think about prior to your apprenticeship, were there any sort of main factors, do you think, that made you decide that an apprenticeship was right for you?
Yeah, I think I'm really fortunate from the background that I come from. My brother actually did an apprenticeship, and I saw how he sort of grew as a person, and I was just I was just inspired. I thought, well, why am I going to go to university? I mean, I took it one step further. I didn't even go to college or sixth form. I went straight from GCSEs. I think I've always enjoyed academia, but I've always sort of known that I wanted to go down finance. And for me to find an apprenticeship at the age of 16 that was specialising in finance, I just thought it was a no-brainer. And my parents were really supportive as well. Like my dad did an apprenticeship when he was really young, so he sort of knew sort of what it would entail for me to go down this route. So I was just really lucky in that sense. But I mean, I know often I've spoken to people where sometimes they're always on the fence of, do I go to university? Do I do an apprenticeship? I think we have so many resources online, and hosting webinars and seminars like this, it's always great just to hear that perspective. And I wouldn't change the route that I went down. I think it's opened so many doors for me. And I wouldn't be where I am today had I not done an apprenticeship. I feel like I would have been maybe struggling for a grad role or something else. So yeah.
Brilliant to hear, and we'll definitely be talking a little bit more about your experiences with it and kind of the doors that's opened as well. Rachel, how about you? Anything, any particular reasons for deciding that was the route for you?
Yeah, so it sounds like Narpreet has a whole family tree of apprentices, which is so wholesome and lovely. I actually chose not to go to university because I was a young carer. So I am an identical twin, and my twin sister is disabled. And so from the first 10 minutes of my life have been a young carer. And so going to university and sort of leaving the care responsibilities that I had at home wasn't an option for me. And so actually the apprenticeship scheme meant that I could still pursue a very academic career in accounting and finance without having to go off to university. And so it felt at the time much less like a choice and much more like this is the option I have to pursue a career in maths and finance. But retrospectively, it did so many amazing things for my career that I still use every day now. So I'm sure Narpreet probably agrees, like the soft skills that you develop as an apprentice, just being thrown in to a working environment where people are maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than you, being able to speak to anybody, pick up the phone. I just had the soft skills that people that were leaving university 3 years after me just could not compete with. And so whilst not going to university and taking an apprenticeship didn't feel like a choice at the time, if I could go back and do it again, I 100% would make the same decision again.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things actually that people do speak about, and I think gets quite undervalued, where actually just how to manage working relationships, how to communicate, all of those things that are non-technical that you would pick up on that journey. So that's really interesting. And Rachel, we'll stick with you. And in fact, actually, just before moving on to the next question I was going to ask, out of interest, did you already know at that stage of going down the apprenticeship route that you were going to be opening up your own practice? Was that kind of always the ambition, or did that kind of fall into place with later developments?
So definitely was not. It actually probably wasn't on the cards until about 6 months before I started my own practice. I think something that's not spoken about a lot in accounting and finance is the stereotype that sits within accounting specifically, I think more than wider finance. If people imagine an accountant, they probably don't imagine people that look like me and Narpreet, which are like young, passionate, talented females. And I think sometimes that stereotype can happen to you too. So a really big chunk of my finance career, I felt like being an accountant was a full stop. Like if you're at a networking event, I'm an accountant, end of sentence. Or like I'm out with my friends, I'm an accountant, end of sentence. And yeah, I definitely went through a journey of taking all of the bits of the finance and accounting industry that sort of frustrated me, or I found like, I just love being an accountant so much, and I find every single element of it so full of like passion and enthusiasm. Why is this not being translated in a way that makes everybody feel the same? And so that was a very long way of saying no. I didn't always have dreams of starting my own practice. After I did my AAT, I went on to do a master's degree. So if anyone's watching this and considering a university versus an apprenticeship, it doesn't have to mean one or the other. They're not mutually exclusive. I did AAT and then went on to do a master's in business afterwards. And through doing the MBA, really, really like challenged and pushed myself to see what I could do next. And I discovered that I became an accountant because I love maths, but actually I think what I love the most is people and business, and so it's gone quite well, which is great.
Absolutely, bringing it all together there. Fantastic. Back to you then, Narpreet. Let's talk specifically about the apprenticeship itself. What do you think are sort of the main key skills, I guess, that you picked up during your apprenticeship?
I think Rachel probably covered it around the soft skills that you pick up. I think, and I can see it now. I think in the industry that I work in, we have many graduates, interns, apprentices, and I often work through this. I try to mentor and I buddy up with them, and I see this often where sometimes it's as little as like, how do I speak up in a meeting? Whereas I was just sort of thrown in there, and you're meant to. I remember, I think even in my interview, it was actually one of the questions. Well, would you speak up if you noticed something was wrong? And I overheard someone else saying no, and I thought, oh gosh, I better not say that. And then you actually have to act on it as well. You actually do have to speak up, and just that skill of being able to, again, talk freely without judgment, be your authentic self. That does come with experience and time that you work within the workplace. And I think just building out a network that helped massively with my soft skills of, again, like presenting in meetings, talking to people, being able to go up and just introducing yourself. I think that was such a terrifying thing to do at first, but now it's sort of come at ease. So I'd say that's sort of one of the things that I've picked up. Other than that, being able to do my job role. So again, the years of experience that you get, I think I always enjoyed sort of pondering at different things. I always used to put my hand up and say, oh, can I be involved in this team? Can I do like a part-time project? And again, that just varied the experience that I had, that I actually got to find out what I do enjoy and what I don't enjoy. But again, I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not had the confidence of going up and asking, can I be involved? So it all sort of flows into one big circle of, you could build the skill of being able to sort of talk, have that confidence, ask for opportunities. The worst thing is you might get hit with a no, but it's fine. You can ask someone else, and then get involved, get your hands dirty, and then you've ticked one more box off your list of experiences that you might want to do.
Brilliant. And is that kind of the same? I saw you nodding your head a lot there, Rachel. Is that sort of your experiences as well? And I guess, do you think that's kind of the main difference between kind of the apprenticeship route and more traditional classroom learning?
Yeah, I'm going to have whiplash from just agreeing with Narpreet so much. So accessibility, I think for me, again, I didn't really realize it at the time, but the apprenticeship route just gave me, as someone who had caring responsibilities, which sort of put me into a box, I guess, that I never realized I was in. It is so accessible. And so actually the barriers to entry to being an apprentice are much lower than they are going to university, which involves having financial backing and accruing quite a lot of debt. And so the barriers to entry being a lot lower are fantastic. My top tip, if you're watching this because you're trying to decide the difference between university or an apprenticeship, and even if you're just comparing comparable apprenticeships one to the other, I would really encourage you, and this echoes a lot of what Narpreet said, I would encourage you to, rather than look at the job, don't choose a job, choose a boss for your first job, because apprenticeships really are a formalized mentorship program where somebody not only pays for your AAT qualification, but fundamentally, like, their role is there to progress you, develop you, and mentor you as a person. And so for us, we have a whole team of apprentices, and we put people on training programs, apprenticeship programs, and fully fund all the way up to chartered qualifications. And really, it's about choosing someone who takes that advisory role in your life very seriously. And it doesn't matter if that's inside of work, outside of work, it's personal development, professional development. If you are interviewing for multiple roles and maybe one job or job title is a little bit better than the other, try and specifically for the start of your career, choose a boss over choosing a job, because that is what is going to take your career to the next level. And that's something that, as an employer, I take very seriously, because that's something that I was very lucky to have in my apprenticeship as well.
Yeah, fantastic advice. I think that probably goes for everyone. I think it's so crucial to have a manager that is really wanting to help you develop and gives you those opportunities, advice where needed as well. And I guess particularly at the start of your career, that's incredibly important and really, really good advice to anyone watching. So looking at, again, the apprenticeship itself, we talked a little bit about kind of the skills and the experience that you would get. Rachel, we'll start with you this time. Let's talk a bit about sort of the challenges and, the real hard work involved, sort of what you experienced in terms of that, and I guess how you overcome those challenges as well.
I'm not going to lie. The biggest challenge for me was watching my friends who were at university be out in a Wetherspoons on a Tuesday night having 2 Jaeger bombs for £5 while I was like working full time, going to night school and like living with my parents. So for me, it was much more the social element. All of my friends went off to university and that felt quite glamorous to me, opposed to my non-glamorous, working with people who were a lot older than me, who I didn't have a lot in common with, sort of sat eating a sandwich in the staff room, as opposed to like chatting to my friends who were having all of these amazing experiences. And I think probably just like the rite of passage and the social side of going to university is something that at the time I really felt like I'd missed out on. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a teetotal introvert, and so I don't think I missed out on anything. But like 18, 19-year-old me, that sense of FOMO was probably one of the biggest like opportunity costs that I felt like I was giving up. And through what I do with accountancy, like we have an audience of 75,000 people. And I think one of the biggest reasons that I have that audience is because I am trying to provide training accountants with that sense of community and ownership and make accounting and not going to university part of a really cool club as well. And so that experience for me has fueled a lot of the work that I do now around launching bursary schemes to lower the financial barriers, but also to make accounting a club as well. And so I feel like it's a relatively lame answer, but for 19-year-old Rachel, the not going to university sort of social experience was very difficult to me. Like I could take being paid the apprenticeship minimum wage and all of those things because I knew it was an investment, but the social side of it was quite hard for me.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting that answer, but it's so true, isn't it?
2 for £5 Jaeger bombs was my answer.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just something to consider, isn't it? As part of everything, and your own well-being, and how it's going for you socially, and the full package. It's a really important consideration that I think could quite easily be overlooked. And fantastic answer there.
No, I think employers are getting much better, and I know like that's something that we take very seriously. Like employers are getting much better at actually acknowledging that not going to university is quite a big social jump. And so for us, I've taken it very seriously to like build a university inside my business. So it's a training program that people come through and feel like it's ticking all of the boxes that university would, whether that's not paying the apprenticeship minimum wage, making sure that it's a workplace that they want to be in, that meets their needs, where they've got people their age. I think that's something that is becoming more and more common, as opposed to what it was maybe 10, 15 years ago when I did it.
Really interesting. I mean, I went down that kind of university route, so a little bit different there. And I think it took me quite a long time to kind of get that. I mean, you were talking earlier now, Narpreet, and sort of said about the confidence, and I guess it's like speaking up, believing in what you're doing, and having the confidence to to give your point of view sometimes when maybe other people have a different point of view on a certain thing. So it's kind of that head start, I sort of see it, and it's interesting that you've got these different routes that you can go down. And really interesting to hear. Narpreet, on that as well, I mean, in terms of kind of like the challenges, Rachel obviously spoke about the social side of it. How did you find it in terms of like balancing your work responsibilities with your educational requirements?
My blunt answer was going to be, it was all right, but I will not say that. I think it just depends how you are as a person, right? So I think for me, again, I enjoyed academia when I was at school. So for me to go into this, I sort of knew what I was getting myself into, in the sense that I knew I probably wouldn't have weekends. Weekends would be non-existent. My Friday evenings, Thursday evenings, well, any evenings up until the exam would be non-existent. I do not condone that now. Looking back at it, that's not the way you should be revising. But you always think you know best when you're at that age and when you're actually studying. But I think on more serious notes, it was quite challenging just to balance it out, because again, as an apprentice, it's not like you don't have a job, right? I had a full-time job that I had to balance while studying at the same time. I think the good thing about being an apprentice is that you get your 20% off the job learning, so you get that 1 day a week. So I knew on that 1 day a week I'd like catch up on all my like live streams that I had. I'd speak to my tutor. I also went down the route of getting a private tutor just to support me towards the end. That helped a lot, but it does take a huge sort of mental toll on you passing those exams, because they're not easy, right? I don't think they're meant to be easy as well. So just learning that balance and being able to ask those questions as well to your tutor, to even people around you. Again, I was so lucky. I was sat with 20 odd finance people that we had at Microsoft, and I was able to go up to them and ask them, can you help me with this? And everybody was so nice and willing to help. And then also off the top and on top of that, they'd give me like work that was in relation to that question or that topic, so it really helped with that side as well. I know Rachel mentioned the social side of things. I think I was one of the fortunate people where I had a huge cohort of apprentices when I joined Microsoft. So there were about 50 of us, and we're all sort of similar age. So I think I got really fortunate in the sense that I had people my age, and we were able to go out after work if we wanted to. We'd spend weekends together. People went on holidays. I think often the word and the terminology that people would say is that I'm doing this off my own money rather than my student loan. And I think that sort of hit me, as in the sense that I do have my own money that I've worked hard for. I can do what I want with it, and I'm studying at the same time. So it was sort of a very nice way of looking at my career at Microsoft and my entire apprenticeship as well, that it was self-driven, and I got what I wanted from it with the hard work that I put into it myself. Like, no one gave that to me, right? I had to work hard for it.
Absolutely. That's fantastic, and it's given a real good flavour, actually. I think the conversation up to this point of kind of what the apprenticeship entails, what you can get out of it, and considerations to have along the way as well. But I guess now, if we kind of fast forward to you've completed your apprenticeship and sort of thinking about the next steps. I guess at that time, how did you feel in terms of understanding the route that you maybe wanted to go down in terms of your career path? And how did you sort of go about embarking on the next step in your finance careers? Getting onto the career ladder for you, Narpreet, and same to you, Rachel, in developing your practice. Rachel, if you want to kick things off with that one.
Yeah, of course. I think for me, I was really lucky in that, the apprenticeship scheme is transferable. And so I started doing an AAT level 2 apprenticeship, and then between levels 3 and level 4 actually managed to progress up to a top 75 accountancy practice, and so trained up to a really, really high standard. The apprenticeship scheme has become a really central part of my practice now, and I've been able to incorporate who I am as a person and my experiences of the apprenticeship scheme to just make sure that we're offering a best-in-class alternative to university. So for me, that is fed into our benefits package. So we don't pay the apprenticeship minimum wage. That's a question I get asked a lot when we talk about the apprenticeships, is the apprenticeship minimum wage. I surprisingly found being paid £3 an hour quite miserable, and so refused to do that. So we pay 10% above the market rate for any role. And so I think 25,000 is the lowest amount any accountant at our practice is paid, even with no experience. And so salary, and very competitive salary, is something that I've incorporated, because actually apprentices, in my opinion, are more valuable than people who don't have like on-the-job experience, as well as we go on all-inclusive, all expenses paid holidays every year. We do one-to-one personal development. We have private medical, gym memberships. And so for me, it's been taking all of the bits that I fell in love with through the apprenticeship scheme, but also building on that and turning the bits that I found quite frustrating in terms of those friendships, those relationships, those experiences, like going on holidays together, all of those experiences, building them into something, as well as something that gives you opportunities after AAT. And so obviously transitioning into a chartered apprenticeship is one option, going on to continue. So I did AAT and then went on to a master's. Lots of different options, as well as we have our own StriveX leadership and management program as well, which is a further 12-month program that people can do once they've finished their apprenticeship, which then takes them on to management and leadership opportunities as well. So I think for me, it was leaning into the bits that I completely fell in love with through the apprenticeship scheme, and then building on the bits that I sort of felt a little bit of frustration around. So for me, those were the apprenticeship minimum wage, the experiences that I felt like I missed out on, and then really guided clarity on where to take my career next to get me where I wanted to go in the shortest amount of time, because we're all accountants and we want to be as efficient as possible.
Absolutely. It's interesting that essentially it's all the things that you just feel really passionate about, kind of making a difference. And it feels like, and I'm certainly not saying about all the hard work that doing that must entail, but it just feels like by doing those things that come naturally and that you think are right to do, has kind of led to, the success that you've had today, essentially.
100%.
Really
yeah. I think when there's purpose behind what you do, if it's purpose driven and you're a great, honest, sort of kind-hearted, giving person, I think that will always do great things for your business. Yeah,
absolutely. And Narpreet, you obviously went down a different path to Rachel and ended up with a career in finance. And I guess, again, same sort of question to you. When you'd finished your apprenticeship, did you kind of have a goal of exactly where you wanted to be? And what was kind of the first steps for you in kind of then developing your career?
I think I've always known that I wanted to be a finance leader at some point in my career. And I know the usual sort of ladder to get there is probably being a people manager and then being a director and then a chief financial officer. And that's sort of the traditional route. And I knew when I was at Microsoft, I'd been there for just, I want to say, nearly 6 years. So I started my career there and I only made the move to my current company last year. I sort of knew that if I wanted to get to that stage of being a finance leader, I needed to broaden my experience, change industry. A lot of the roles that you need, which are core finance roles, we unfortunately didn't have them at Microsoft. We had a lot of, they were more so sort of analyst finance level roles. And for me to sort of get into the detail, I knew that, okay, I need to either change industry. I could either stay internal, maybe go into a different country. But I just thought, well, I wanted to see what else is out there, right? So often you think when you work for a huge global organization that you've made it. And I really did feel like that when I was there the whole time, because it was such an amazing company to work for. But I thought I'd never know what it's like being on the other side. So I thought, okay, I'd rather make that move now rather than when I'm later down my career. So that was really the reason as to why I left. I wanted to see what else was out there, experience a new company, a new industry. So I've covered tech, now I'm in FMCG. And I just wanted to experience a different type of role, which I hadn't, but would tick off that box for me to get to that goal of being a finance leader. So the next one would be to be a people manager, and then from people manager to see where I can go to be a team finance leader. Still not there yet. I'll be a Rachel one day. But yes, that's where I'm at the moment. Maybe in a year's time when we have this conversation again, my answer will be very different.
Well, that's amazing to hear, Narpreet. You've sort of stolen my next question, actually, because I was going to say, what are your sort of ambitions and what are you working on at the moment? But you've pretty much ticked that one off, I guess. So you've certainly really dedicated some thought to where you want to go in your career, and really getting a very well-rounded sort of set of skills and experiences to the path that you're looking to continue down. I guess, Rachel, what are sort of your next steps? Do you have any kind of things that you're looking at over the next maybe short to mid-term sort of year or two?
Yeah, of course. So we just hit £1 million a couple of 3 or 4 months ago. So we managed to scale from our dining room table to £1 million in 3 years, which was wild, and my hair didn't fall out during the process. So very proud personal achievement. I guess for me, continuing to grow my personal brand, which is where I get to create the most impact for accountants, other practice owners and business owners. And then with the practice, we've just opened our Manchester office. And so at the moment we offer accounting, audit, consulting and mortgage advice. And so we have plans to bring financial advice in-house as well as HR this year. So continuing to grow. I think we're going to hit 20 employees very soon, 800 clients, and then just continue to grow and help as many people as I can along the way. I guess the biggest thing personally in the next couple of weeks, this week we're announcing the 2024 bursary scheme. So I last year opened the first ever corporate bursary scheme where my company fully funds somebody who wants to do AAT but maybe can't afford to, or they're in difficult personal financial situation. And so last year we launched one bursary, but this year we're opening 5 placements to do 5 bursaries this year.
Wow, exciting stuff. And again, just back to you, Narpreet, in terms of, I guess, your learning and development, what other sort of areas do you look to pursue, I guess, in terms of kind of like CPD, and you've mentioned kind of moving roles and going into other areas. Are there any other sort of things that you look to do to kind of keep your CPD going and to expand?
Yeah, I mean, aside from my sort of required CPD per year, I think some of the things that I've been looking at and I've been working with my mentors is I've only ever had a career around the commercial finance side of the world. I was at Microsoft, I had 3 roles again, which were based in the commercial finance team. My current role is in supply chain finance. I've never done or experienced a core finance role in like audit or tax, or one of those ones where people often think that, oh, that's the boring side of finance. But you know, when you've never experienced it, you're interested to know what it's like, and you want to, again, it's one of those tick box things like, I've done it, now I know what it's like, I can then choose what I want to go down. So for me, it's sort of seeing where how can I experience those areas and industries. So that's what I'm trying to work on. I think it's quite hard. Maybe hard's not the right word. I think after having a long tenure in commercial finance, to make that jump into what I'd call core finance, that jump can be a bit uneasy. You might think, I feel like I'd be very uncomfortable very quickly. But that's definitely something on the horizon for me to just experience, whether it's in a secondment or whether it's a new job role. I'm not sure yet, but that's something that I'd want to do. Again, it would support my CPD, and you never know, maybe I might want to do an MBA or a master's in finance or a chartered accountancy. But I was saying this earlier, that I'm at the point where AAT has really given me the fundamentals of accountancy that I needed. In my job role, and people around me, my colleagues, they're chartered accountants, but I do the same exact job role as them. I have the exact same financial understanding as them. I don't need that in order to do my job role, or in order to do a finance job role, unless it's in audit and tax. I feel like that might be a bit different. But I just feel like my experience has exceeded the qualifications that I need. But again, for the CPD purposes and where I might want to take my career, that's something that I might look to do in the near future. I think that was your question.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's really interesting to hear. I mean, as well as, like you mentioned, chartered there, and there's a lot of other qualifications and options for people. But with you sort of talking about some of the skills and kind of like the kind of foundation that you get from AAT. I did hear somebody say recently that AAT can give you the fundamentals, and if you then manage to bring in the kind of professional skills, the people skills, along with really solid digital skills as well, you can kind of, and you alluded to that, kind of get to that level, which previously might have been thought of as just being for those in chartered. And I think you've really highlighted that, which is really interesting, and certainly not to take anything away from chartered as well. But
exactly, yeah,
I have heard that, and I think it's quite interesting that those sort of 3 areas are so key to progression. So we're sort of looking at having about 5 minutes left. We'll see what questions are coming in very shortly. But let's just put you both on the spot then. So we'll look at kind of the key takeaways. So for those watching, either kind of thinking about or undertaking their apprenticeship, and then thinking about kind of the career development after that, which is, I guess, very broad. But what would be, I guess, your key takeaway for anyone going through that apprenticeship route in terms of kind of like maximizing that opportunity, and then to kind of go into a career in finance beyond that? And I'll pick on you, Rachel, because you're nodding. So I'll let you go first on that one.
You said put us on the spot. I thought you were going to start asking us like debits and credit questions. Alrighty, yeah. So if someone was looking to apply for an apprenticeship now and they wanted like a checklist of how to make the most of it, again, choose a boss, not a job title or a role. I think, as with most experiences in life, you get out what you put in. And so somebody could go through exactly the same qualification as you and have a very different experience. And so I'm a very jump in with both feet and with a smile on your face sort of person and just see where that can take you. So would just really encourage you to lean into it, ask for help, ask for extra opportunities. So when I was doing my apprenticeship in a practice, I asked if I could go and do little bits of work experience in different teams, just as Narpreet's saying, like, you can get sort of like put into one area of finance. And I really wanted to like lean into all of the different opportunities and all of the glamorous opportunities that things like audit and tax can offer you, and just wanted to be a bit of a networking Tasmanian devil and just sort of get exposure to as much as possible to then really understand I've not just got one tool, I've got this like Swiss Army knife of like different skills that having an apprenticeship has given me that I've then been able to take away and really progress. But as an employer, when I'm interviewing and when people are applying to join our firm, soft skills are the number one skill that you cannot teach. I can teach you debits and credits. I can sit and draw T accounts with you and teach you, about director's loan accounts, but I can't teach you to adhere to our core values, which are about treating clients like people before you treat them as clients and leaving people better than I found you. And so for me, the apprenticeship is like having a theory and a practical driving test rather than just having the theory. And so that practical element is something that you can't buy, and you can't very often learn that through a degree. So just get out what you put in, which means normally jumping in headfirst.
Yes, absolutely. Just throwing yourself in there, and a really good analogy there, I think, just with that sort of practical and theory side of it. How about you now, Preet? Have you got any kind of key takeaway for people interested in that apprenticeship route and getting the most?
I think, just to echo what Rachel said, I think just have a good network. In my first year of being an apprentice, I went to all the networking events you can imagine up and down the country, and I just spoke to people. And that helped me hugely. Like, some of my mentors today are from those events that I went to in my first year. And often you just need that one person to believe in you from the people that you meet, and they can take your career to the next level. Often when people say that it's not what you know, it's who you know. At some point in your career, that is very true. And it does help a lot. So you just need those advocates. It doesn't matter who it is. You just need that one person to believe in you, and that will literally give you a huge confidence boost that you didn't even know that you had within yourself, just to take it that one step further. So I'd say network. Something that my mum always said to me is always be the first to put your hand up. And this was when I was in school, probably nursery or reception, but it's that one thing that stuck with me. Being an apprentice, you're often going to be chucked into a room. You're going to have all these talks. You get to do a lot of very early and career orientated things. Be the first to put your hand up. Ask those questions. Make yourself heard. Make yourself put yourself out there, basically. So people know, I don't know, I want to talk about myself. Narpreet asked a question there. I know Narpreet. Again, it's those small things that you don't really think about, but they actually help a huge amount. And I've seen that over the 5-6 years of apprentices that I've seen at Microsoft and at my current company as well. You often remember those that were asking great questions. Again, don't ask any question. Ask a good question. And again, it's those that actually, after potentially a talk has ended, they come up to you and they ask again more questions, they introduce themselves, and it does come back down to the soft skills of just being able to hold a conversation as well. Other things I would say, aside from putting your hand up, getting involved, just be yourself. Often it's so easy to pick up on imposter syndrome. It's easy to pick up when you're not really being yourself. And that can sometimes turn into a negative when you really don't want it to be. But just be yourself, let yourself shine through, and that will work wonders.
That's fantastic. really, really interesting to get your thoughts. And I was just going to move on to see if we had any questions, but looking at the chat, we don't actually have any questions coming through. But it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you both, and really interesting to get your thoughts and insight on your personal experiences, what it's been like for you, and kind of how it's really helped you achieve all of this success in your careers to date. So, of course, wish you all the best in the next steps for both of you. As I say, fantastic having you on, really appreciate it. But we'll wrap up there, and thank you everyone who's joined today. Hopefully you've got a lot out of this session in terms of what the apprenticeship's all about, and also the value that you can get from it. So thanks very much again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your afternoons.
Thank you. Bye.